In 1970, General Motors built a Chevelle so powerful, they immediately regretted it. Not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. And one of them survived exactly the way they didn't want it to. By 1969, Detroit wasn't building cars anymore. It was building weapons. Horsepower had become a public arms race. Pontiac had the Judge, Ford unleashed the Cobra Jet, Chrysler had the 426 Hemi. Every magazine cover screamed numbers. Every dealership window bragged louder than the last. And Chevrolet was supposed to stay in its lane. Inside General Motors, there was an understanding, never officially printed, but quietly enforced. No intermediate car was supposed to exceed 400 cubic inches. That wasn't engineering, that was politics. Cadillac sat at the top. Corvette was protected territory. Chevrolet was not supposed to outshine either. But customers didn't care about corporate hierarchy. They cared about quarter-mile times. And Chevrolet engineers knew something dangerous. They had more power sitting on the table. And in 1970, they decided to use it. The LS6 wasn't an accident. It was escalation. Chevrolet already had the LS5, a 454 rated at 360 horsepower. Safe, corporate approved, contained. But engineers pushed further. Compression, forged pistons, solid lifter cam, a big Hawley carburetor, aluminum intake, heavy-duty internals, officially 450 horsepower, unofficially higher, and that number mattered. Because 450 horsepower in a mid-sized Chevelle wasn't just performance, it was rebellion. It threatened internal balance. It embarrassed restraint. And corporate leadership noticed. By 1970, consequences were stacking up. Insurance companies were raising premiums. Parents were nervous. Regulators were watching. Public opinion was shifting. Muscle cars were no longer just exciting. They were becoming controversial. Inside GM, the question changed. Not how fast can we go, but how exposed are we? Because Chevrolet wasn't niche. It was mass market. A 20-year-old could finance 450 horsepower, and that scared executives. Not engineers, executives. They didn't hold a press conference. They didn't announce a retreat. They just simply pulled back. 1971 arrived. Compression dropped. Horsepower ratings fell. Insurance tightened. Regulations advanced. The war didn't explode. It just faded. The LS6 existed for one brief moment, and then it was gone. Most were raced, modified, beaten hard. Because when you sell a 450 horsepower Chevelle in 1970, it doesn't live quietly. But one of them did. Most LS6 Chevelles didn't survive intact. They became drag cars, street racers, engine swaps, gear changes, aftermarket cams. But this one followed a different path. Ordered correctly, delivered properly, driven briefly, then parked. Not because it failed, because life just changed. And decades passed. When the door finally opened, it wasn't just another Chevelle under dust. It was an LS6. And not a rewritten one, an untouched one. Flat tires, original paint dulled, interior was frozen in time, matching numbers block, correct casting dates, original carburetor, The factory intake, build sheet was still present. That is not common. That's rare. Because badges can be faked. Stories can be rewritten. But originality is almost impossible to recreate. This wasn't restored history. It was preserved history. And that's where the real tension begins. In the muscle car world, authenticity is everything. The difference between an LS5 clone and a real LS6 can be 6 figures, sometimes more. So inspections begin. Stamp pad fonts, casting dates, rear axle codes, transmission stamps, paperwork. If one detail is wrong, the value completely collapses. But detail after detail checked out. The dates aligned, all components matched. Documentation made sense. It wasn't just an LS6. It was the real thing. Unmodified. Surviving from the exact year GM would later distance itself from. And the market reacted exactly how you would expect. When LS6 Chevelles cross auction blocks, numbers climb quickly. But value isn't about rarity alone. It's about timing. The LS6 represents the peak, the final moment before restraint, the year Detroit went too far. And collectors understand that. They're not buying just horsepower. They are buying the breaking point. The LS6 didn't single-handedly end the horsepower war, but it marked the moment Detroit realized it had gone too far. After 1970, everything changed. The compression dropped, horsepower fell, caution replaced ego. But for 1 year, Chevrolet ignored the warning signs. They built the most powerful Chevelle they could. And when General Motors realized what they unleashed, they stepped back. But they couldn't undo it. The LS6 existed. And once something like that exists, you can't erase it. And somehow, one survived exactly the way they didn't want it to. If you appreciate the cars that corporate America didn't want to build, hit subscribe. Every week we break down another one they wish people would forget.